But you have rejected millions of dollars in aid.
We don't want to be spoon-fed. We would like to live on our toil and be enabled to secure food for our people. That's what we do, and we don't want to be crippled by food aid that is linked to an agenda of dependency, and we've overcome this by denying and rejecting food aid intended for crippling us.
President,
Yes, we don't want to be spoon-fed by anybody. That is the president of Eritrea speaking. You know, I don't know why the president of Eritrea is not getting the same publicity as our leaders in the Sahel are getting. Because to be honest with you, the president of Eritrea is one of the best presidents we have in Africa for the past 20 years, in my opinion. The man, he has been standing up for his people. He has been standing up for the continent of Africa. And he's so intelligent when listening to him. You know, sometimes I don't know why these Western journalists, when they meet African leaders, they always feel emboldened to ask any stupid question that they want. I want us to go and listen to the full video, come back and talk about it. But before we do that, this is One Africa Mission. One Africa Mission, we are missionaries. We are on a mission, and our mission is all about the unity of our continent and our collective dignity as a race. So please, if you appreciate what we are doing, then please don't hesitate to follow us, and then also to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the #1 Africa Mission. Let us come together and handle a dignified Africa to the next generation of Africans. Let's listen to the president of Eritrea come back and talk about it.
Prepared to tolerate any kind of opposition in Eritrea?
What kind of opposition? Agents hired by the CIA from Langley, or opposition from inside, or any kind of opposition?
There was something of a crackdown against the opposition by the Eritreans, by your government in 2001. Journalists
never, not at all. Not at all. You are disinformed. There has never been any opposition in this country. This is a total lie. And if you're talking about a political process, that is a different matter. If you're talking an opposition that has been fabricated and created by Langley, then you would call that an opposition. I would not call that an opposition.
Well, but you did close down the free press, and you know, just to get to some specifics, there were 2 Eritreans who worked for the US Embassy in Asmara who were imprisoned. They have not been put on trial yet.
You're coming back again with the same list of questions provided to you by the State Department or the CIA, and you're trying to make this issue a political issue in the name of Al Jazeera International. I can assure you, freedom of press, if you mean the press that is financed by conglomerates in the world, financed by military industry in the world, if you think the financing and managing of media, the CNN, BBC, or even Jazeera International, by special interest groups is freedom of press, I can tell you we're not party to that kind of freedom of press.
But you have rejected millions of dollars in aid.
We don't want to be spoon-fed. We would like to live on our toil and be enabled to secure food for our people. That's what we do, and we don't want to be crippled by food aid that is linked to an agenda of dependency, and we've overcome this by denying and rejecting food aid intended for crippling us.
President, I can understand that you don't want to be spoon-fed, as you say. You want to be self-reliant, you want to be self-sufficient, but there are food shortages in Asmara.
Who told you that?
Well, we just had a report from the French news agency which says there are shortages of things like bread, that people have to use ration cards to get food from state stores, that there is a black market in food supplies.
This is another fabrication. Go and talk about food shortage in the United States. Ask people in the streets of the United States who are compromising, who are even sacrificing their breakfast, their dinner, or their supper because the food supplies there are not enough, because prices are going high. And we would like for those who are interested to address this issue, look otherwise. And people telling you that food shortage in Asmara are very unique under the circumstance, that would be a total fabrication.
Yeah, so listening to the president of Eritrea, you realize that this journalist who is sitting in Doha, Qatar, Al Jazeera, he has the guts to ask an African leader talking about democracy, talking about elections, talking about opposition. But the same country that he's sitting down and asking this question, he cannot ask the same question to the leadership in Qatar. There is no, how many Arab countries have democracy, practice democracy, freedom of speech, but they cannot ask, he cannot ask the leadership in Saudi Arabia the same question that he's asking an African leader. And that is why I'm saying, anytime these people meet us as African people, I don't know what colonization has done to us, because it is not only him. Like everywhere as an African, anybody that meets you and they ask you and you say you are African, then they now have that kind of boldness to say or to do anything that they think they can do to you, because in everybody mindset we are at the bottom of the human race. So even when you are trying to argue, or when you are trying to kind of like stand up for yourself, sometimes people are wondered. They're wondering why are you not like others? Because this guy asking an African leader as to why he is not allowing opposition, he's not allowing democracy, elections and stuff like that. He is sitting down in Qatar. And then the people who are paying him to ask these same questions, they don't have democracy in their country. They don't have opposition in their country. They don't have freedom of speech in their country. How come he's not able to ask leadership in Qatar about why they don't have democracy, why they don't practice democracy, why they don't have practice freedom of speech, so-called freedom of speech, or have opposition? He cannot do that because he dare not. But when it comes to we Africans, the journalists, the Western colonial criminals journalists, they are so emboldened to ask any question concerning about the way and manner we govern ourselves. And it is not only that. The thing that pissed me off is when he's asking as to why the president of Eritrea is not accepting food aid. So as an African, like we are a burden. We become like a burden to everybody. He cannot ask Japanese as to why they are not accepting food aid from America. He cannot ask Americans as to why they are not accepting food aid from Germany. He cannot ask the British as to why they must not accept food aid, or they are not accepting food aid from Italy, Spain, Korea. He cannot ask anybody like that. But when it comes to Africa, the continent, the richest continent in the world, the continent that have the most arable land, the continent that should not be talking about food shortage, he's asking an African leader as to why he's not accepting food aid. It doesn't just come like that. You understand? So why must you force an African leader to accept food aid? That is the problem. They cannot force Germans. They cannot force the British. They cannot ask this question everywhere in the world, just as the president of Eritrea was saying. There are people in America who doesn't have food to eat, but you cannot ask that question to American leadership. But when it comes to our continent that's supposed to be feeding the world, you are asking an African leader as to why he's not accepting food aid. Because in their mindset, we are a burden to the rest of the world. We cannot feed ourselves. So, like, how dare you as an African to think that you can feed yourself, you can feed your nation. You don't have the right to think of feeding your own people. Because as an African, you are a burden to the rest of the world. So you must accept food aid. And then if you say you don't want food aid, then that means you like there's something psychologically wrong with you as an African to say I don't want food aid. Can you imagine the insult? Africans, when are we going to, honestly speaking, the president of Eritrea really need our support. As I said, everything that our leaders in the Sahel are doing today, that is making us so proud. We wake up every day in the morning. We are proud of what our leaders in the Sahel are doing. There seems to be a lot of noise here. We are proud of what our leaders in the Sahel are doing. The president of Eritrea, he has been doing this for many years. And then he is one of the few African leaders who have been doing this. And then the time has come for we to be giving him the same publicity just as other African leaders who are standing up for the continent of Africa are getting. I thank you very much for coming around. This is One Africa Mission. We are on a mission to free our continent from these colonial criminals. Thank you.
We must unite now. We must have one army. We must have one currency. We must have one foreign policy. We must be united.